So you gotta get that one last rinse in.
Throughout the day, I'll try to figure out where I want to be. There's a couple of places that I go and park my car where it's really, really dark. I can't sleep because I have to make sure that we're safe.
We're back with more from our CBSN original Priced Out. Here's a conversation from one of the families we followed. A mother and daughter discuss the importance of their bond as they navigate living life out of their car.
Anna's friend has offered her garage as a refuge, while her apartment above is being renovated.
Right, just shove everything in.
So for the first time in months, she and Joey don't have to take the risk of parking overnight on the street.
You can open your blanket.
All right, so I'll probably just like, kaboom, bam. Just
No, we're
open.
gonna get into bed, so.
Yeah.
Okay. Get in and lay down.
Alrighty. Being pampered and like in a house and being able to, really get what you want isn't always going to be guaranteed. I never want to be without my mom. I hate leaving my mom alone, and I love my mom very much. I love her. I love my mom to death because Lord knows all the things, all the sacrifices she would make for me, and just to make sure that I'm okay. And I really appreciate the fact that you're willing to keep me with you and not give up and push through, whatever we're going through, regardless of our situation. I appreciate that, Mom. I don't know if I've said it enough, but
You don't need to say it because it's my job. It's my job. It's our job as parents to make sure that you're okay. Because it wasn't always like this.
It wasn't.
And this is temporary,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
It's not permanent.
Regardless, like if someone even offered me like $1 million home, I'd say not without my mom, if anything. That's always me.
Right?
Not even on Mondays, just every day. Just
Right.
heading into the week, just ugh.
Really?
For more on this, my colleague Meg Oliver sat down with Gale Holland, who covers homelessness and poverty for the Los Angeles Times.
Gale, give us your perspective as someone who covers this issue. How has the homelessness crisis in Los Angeles evolved over the years?
Well, it was on the back burner for decades. The city, the main homeless area, Skid Row, the city made a conscious decision to kind of contain the main group of homeless people there. But as the downtown revived, they encroached more and more on the places that people lived around downtown. And LA has always had several areas, of course, that had a lot of homeless people, one being Hollywood, what used to be called Runaways, and also Venice. It was kind of Jim Morrison, bohemian homeless. That completely changed coming out of the recession as the rents rose and the incomes didn't. Homelessness spread all over the LA basin, and there's tents, encampments, just people lying in doorways with a single blanket, literally not every single street, of course, but in every single neighborhood.
Wow. A UCLA study found that the increase in housing costs is a significant factor in the state's homeless crisis. You just alluded to that. Is that in line with what you've seen during your reporting?
Definitely, and I think in the past, I began reporting on this more like 5 years ago, and the federal government and here locally were focused on what's called the chronically homeless, so people who've been homeless either off and on or continuously for a long time. But now we have all these people being forced out of their housing by rising rents primarily, and to some extent foreclosures and mortgages and this kind of thing. So what's happened is that the city and the county are doing way more than they ever have. I believe they said last year they had housed 16,000 people, but the inflow of newly homeless people is, well, last year they said they had a very small drop in the numbers of homeless people. So I guess they're a little bit more than keeping pace, but pretty much just swimming in place.
Wow, Gale, in June of last year, you noted that there was a 22% surge in the number of homeless people who are 62 years or older. That's heartbreaking. What's driving that statistic?
Well, fixed incomes largely, like again, people retired either thinking or just the assumption was I'll make it on my Social Security. And Social Security has not gone up, and the rents have gone way up, like by as much as 1,000 or even more. And in addition to that, there's a lot of people that, and also Social Security for most people doesn't start till 65. But there's also a huge swell of people in their 50s who worked for 30 years or whatever, and many people just can't work for a full 40 or 50 years because their bodies become, disabled from their work. And there's an awful lot of people out there that you meet that did things like construction and warehousing or even a lot of handymen. I feel like I've met all these handymen, and they injured themselves, and clearly they didn't have workman's comp. They were self-employed, so.
Their bodies just broke down over time.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the tents on Skid Row. They've long been a very visible example of homelessness. But our report took a look at the people who are having to live inside their car because they can't afford a place to live. Is the city concerned about that specific problem?
Oh, yeah. They've had a lot of focus on that. And there's been varying proposals of what to do. The one that is kind of gaining traction, but very slowly, is this idea of safe parking, where either a church or some kind of philanthropic group has a parking lot that's not used at night, and so they set it up and let people sleep there, because it's both dangerous for the people to sleep in the car, and it's very disturbing to the neighborhoods where the people park their cars and vans. So what's happened is they actually, at one point, approved some parking in industrial areas and tried to move people out of the residential neighborhoods. But then what happened was the business people complained that the people never left in the daytime and created a lot of trash, and there was drug use and other problems. So slowly they keep putting up more and more signs saying no overnight parking. And again, the safe parking is supposed to come in to fill the breach, but there hasn't been that many safe parking spots allotted, nowhere near the number of occupied cars, vans, and RVs that are out on the streets. So it's a source of conflict like everything else about homelessness.
Gale, we really appreciate your time. We know you've covered this issue for many years, so really appreciate your perspective.
Well, thank you for having me on.